Are you looking for an exciting and positive employment opportunity with a great company? Dublin-Lawrence County Development Authority encourages applicants for customer service representatives to apply online for a prospective new company interested in locating in Dublin. Applicants are candidates for 300 jobs contingent on Lawrence and surrounding counties' ability to provide a pool of applicants showing we have the manpower to handle these jobs. It's important we show prospective employees for these jobs. Complete your career interest survey by logging on to dlcda.com. Look under News for your application. Share this link and information with your friends, family, and connections throughout Middle Georgia. And thanks in advance from Dublin-Lawrence County Development Authority.
We're going to go ahead and get our program started. We want to make sure and respect everyone's time this morning. Thank you for coming to the Pre-Legislative Breakfast Preview 2018. I want to say special thanks to our representatives here this morning, our elected officials. We have councilmen and just lots of representatives here today. Thank you for taking your time to join us this morning. If you would, let's have our invocation. Father, we thank you for a brand new day of life, Lord. Thank you for the opportunity to work in this community, to live and play in this community. We thank you for the bountiful blessings, Lord, that you give us each and every day. I thank you for our representatives that are here today. I pray that you would watch over them and protect them and give them godly counsel as they make decisions to lead our state forward. And I pray that we would also do that on a local level. We give you thanks for this food and this time of fellowship. In Christ's name, amen. If you would stand with me and join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. At this time, I want to say a special thank you to Altamaha EMC, Oconee EMC, and the Okmulgee EMC. They sponsored the breakfast this morning, and so they made this possible for us to do the things that we're doing this morning. And I want to ask Tammy Vaughn with Altamaha EMC if she would come to the podium, and she's going to lead our program for us. Could we welcome her?
Thank you, Heath, and thank you everyone for taking time out of your schedule to be here this morning. On behalf of Altamaha EMC, the Little Okmulgee EMC, and Oconee EMC, we want to thank you for allowing us to be a part of Lawrence County. It is always a pleasure for us to support the businesses and industries in the Chamber and Development Authority here in Lawrence County. And anytime we have the opportunity to be here with you and share in events like this, we certainly appreciate the opportunity. So later on in the program, Jennifer Bryant from Oconee EMC and Louis Sheffield from Little Okmulgee EMC will have their moment at the microphone. And when they do, they'll introduce the representatives of their respective EMCs at that time. But with me today from Altamaha EMC is Romana Stotson, our General Manager, CEO, and George McClendon, our Assistant Manager. So again, thank you for allowing us to be here. At this time, it's my pleasure to introduce Senator Larry Walker, and he asked me to keep his introduction short, so I'm going to have to read very fast because it's maybe medium length. How about that? Representative Larry Walker III was elected to the State Senate of Georgia's 20th District in 2015. Senator Walker represents the citizens of Bleckley, Lawrence, and Pulaski counties, along with most of Houston County. Senator Walker serves on the Agriculture and Consumer Affairs, Health and Human Services, Insurance and Labor, and Veterans, Military, and Homeland Security Standing Committees. He's also a member of the Agricultural Exposition Authority Overview Committee, and he serves as administration floor leader for Governor Nathan Deal. Senator Walker is active in the Middle Georgia community and serves on the board of numerous organizations. He was born and raised in Perry, Georgia, and graduated with honors from the University of Georgia's Terry College of Business, where he received a Bachelor of Business Administration and Finance. He worked as a staff accountant for the Coca-Cola Company in Atlanta before before opening several successful small businesses, including the Walker Insurance Agency, which he founded in 1996. Senator Walker has been married to his high school sweetheart, Adrian, for 32 years, and together they have 3 sons, Ben, Cody, and Wade. Please join me in welcoming Senator Walker.
Count on Century 21 Durden Cornegay to help you fall in love with a new home. Call on agents Jody Tanner, Jim Jarrett, Pam Tillery, David Dees, Beverly Forbes, Ann Adams, Raina Duberly, Benny Helton, Charlene Brantley, Ruth Watson, Jay Brantley, Charlene Lamp, Yvonne Robertson, Karen Whitmer, and George Durden to help you fall in love with your new home today. Fall is a perfect time for you to buy or sell your home or commercial property. For more information, log on to c21dublin.com. Century 21 Durden Cornegay Realty. Broker George Durden.
Ready for some good barbecue? Come on by Southern Heritage Barbecue, 2276 Veterans Boulevard. Home cooked Southern barbecue served fast. Want a killer deal? Sandwich, chips, and drink, just $4.50. Barbecue by the pound, mouth-watering ribs, or delicious Brunswick stew. All at Southern Heritage Barbecue, 2276 Veterans Boulevard. For those special orders, call ahead 275-4304. And check out our new banquet room. Southern Heritage Barbecue, Dublin.
Thank you, Tammy, and good morning. And I want to thank Heath and his staff for putting this on and giving us this opportunity to meet with you all this morning. And this, I hope, will be more of a dialogue between us. We want to hear from you all and what's on your mind, what your concerns are. And so I asked you to go ahead and start, get your wheels turning, and we'll have some good questions and good dialogue coming up. Thank you too to the EMCs for their sponsorship of this and for all you do for our communities, economic development wise, and keeping the lights on. So thank you very much for that. And Heath's blessing this morning, he prayed that we would have wisdom and guidance, and I appreciate that. I pray for that every day. We deal with such a diverse amount of diverse type of issues in the legislature, and of course we're part-time, we're citizen legislators, and we are really lay people, and we have to try to get up to speed on just all kind of stuff. And so I really ask for your prayers and input too as we try to serve this community. As she said in my introduction, I'm from Perry. I was born in Perry and lived most of my life there, but some of you may not know, Adrian and I lived in Dublin from 89 to 94, and we had Ben was already born when we moved here, and then we had Cody was born when we lived here, our middle son. We have 3, and we loved Dublin. I mean, we were welcome here. We felt like we were at home. And the community just embraced us, and it was wonderful. And we were very, very sad to leave Dublin due to a job change. And I just think it's remarkable that the Lord has seen fit to let me now come back at this time and serve this wonderful community. And I'm just very honored to serve you, and just a thrill. I know you may not know it by my tardiness this morning, but I love coming over here. I did get into House and County's getting a lot of traffic, and it's a pain. But anyway, I always love to spend time over here. It's also a blessing that it's easy job to represent Lawrence County. First of all, you've got fantastic local leadership here, both in the elected officials and in the civic leadership here. So it's a pleasure. It's very fantastic job. I'm very, very proud. I was with the Chief Operating Officer of the State Economic Development Office
last week, and he just was bragging on Lawrence County and what a wonderful community it is to work with. So I'm always very proud to tell people I represent Dublin, Lawrence County. But what makes it so great and easy, really, is you all have Chairman Hatchett and Chairman Epps representing you, and they do such a fantastic job for you that it makes my job easy, and I'm really honored to serve with them. And you couldn't have better representation than those two gentlemen. They are in positions of authority and you know, a lot of influence at the state capitol. They're very well respected, and they work mighty hard and representing you every day, and I'm proud to serve with them. It's hard to predict what the 2018 session is going to bring. All our constitutional officers in the state are up for re-election. Our governor is term limited, so he won't be running again. So it's going to be a lot of politics next year, and so it's very hard to predict what we might see. I'm hoping we'll have a sort of a more of a brief session. I think people are going to be eager to get on the campaign trail, and hopefully maybe it won't be drug out, but I've heard different predictions that it could be real contentious and long, or maybe it'll be brief. But it's going to be interesting there. Some things I've worked on last session that I'm real proud of that we got done is an economic development measure. I've sponsored a bill to eliminate the corporate net worth tax on sub-S and C corps. LLCs don't pay the corporate net worth tax, and it's really a sort of a nuisance tax the way I saw it, and I was able to get that passed. So any small businesses with $100,000 in net worth or less no longer have to pay the corporate net worth tax. So I was really proud of that, and part of that legislation ended up being the House added, Representative Shaw added a Rural Jobs Act into that bill, and I thought it was a good measure, and I agreed with that and got that passed in the Senate. So the Department of Community Affairs is now putting together the rules and procedures to establish a $100 million the measure incentivizes private investment into a $100 million sort of revolving loan fund for rural Georgia small businesses. So I'm hoping that will spur some economic development in rural Georgia and will be a successful program. But and for the bankers in the room, it's not to supplant the community bank, it's to close the gap on projects where the community bank maybe could only do 50% of the funding needs, and there needs to be some additional mezzanine money, maybe it's called. I don't know. I've heard that expression before, but anyway, to put the package together to grow some businesses in in rural Georgia. I've been spending a pretty enormous amount of time on healthcare related issues, whether it be mental health. We are having, like the rest of the country, really a mental health crisis in our country with the opioid epidemic, and in Georgia we're under a federal court order to close our institutions. They want our mental health people to be served in a more of a community setting, and so we've seen our hospitals close, and we really haven't backfilled in like probably we need to serve those people, and so I've been working hard on that. Yesterday I was in a study committee meeting to talk about barriers to access to care in rural Georgia, and looking at scope of practice for advanced registered practical nurses and PAs and that kind of thing. So, and I'm an insurance guy, so it's a lot to learn. That's not anything in my expertise, so I've had to really try to study hard and work on that. As far as the session coming up, we'll probably see, might see some measures to try to change our state income tax structure. Although now with Congress trying to do tax reform, I wonder if that won't put that on the back burner or delay that, because of course our state income tax form just kind of flows down from the federal. So it's going to be hard to, I think, change our state income tax when the federal government's changing theirs. There's talk, and I'd be interested to get feedback. There's still talk about a destination resort or casino gaming in Georgia. Frankly, that's not something I'm in favor of, but I would like to have some input from this audience about that. There'll be, I hope, a revision of our adoption statute, and that's not something I'm an expert in, but I hope we can get that. We worked on it last year, and we're not able to get it passed, but I hope we can get a good, clean update to our adoption statute accomplished. And then, just like I said, a lot of politics. So that's about all I have. And Heath, did you want me to take questions now, or? Okay. So if anybody has any questions, I'll defer them to Matt or Bubba.
I want to ask them, you mentioned the gaming casinos. What are the places, where are they looking at in Georgia? I heard 2 or 3 locations last year. Was there any validity to where they would be placed?
Well, the governor has been pretty clear in what he wants to see, and that is only one destination resort. And he wants it to be an investment of $2 billion or more. So it would be one of your major players, and an MGM or I think it's a Wynn is one of them. Is that right, Matt? But anyway, there's a few. There's really only probably 3 or 4 companies that could invest $2 billion or more dollars. So I think it would certainly be in the metro area under that criteria. I know that there's a desire somewhat to have one in Savannah, one in Columbus, that kind of thing, but I don't think that's going to happen. It would take a constitutional amendment to allow casino gaming in Georgia, which would require a 2/3 majority in the House and the Senate, and but then you have the enabling legislation, which is what the governor can, so he can't veto if it passes a 2/3 majority, the constitutional amendment part, the governor can't veto that, but he can veto the enabling legislation, which sets all the parameters, the one location, the $2 billion investment, what percentage of the state would get. So the reason first of all, I don't think it's morally right way to raise revenue for the state. I think we have for the 5th consecutive year, Georgia's been named the #1 state in the nation to do business by the Site Selection Committee. We're all very proud of that. We have a very pro-business environment, and we work hard every session to try to continue that. So we've got a lot of good things going in Georgia, and to me, we don't need casinos. I think it would generate new revenue, but I think it would also cannibalize other revenue. I think it would hurt small businesses. I think it would hurt a lot of your nonprofits. I think it would hurt some of the entertainment venues like the Fox Theater, for example, in Atlanta, that can't compete for the entertainment that casino can, because the casino can basically, it's a monopoly. It will be a monopoly for the casino, and they can kind of subsidize their entertainment costs with the gaming revenue, so they could bring in a Bon Jovi or somebody and sell tickets for $10 or whatever, where Fox, has to actually make the money off the event itself. So I think it would hurt some of your nonprofits too, and I think your You're gonna get some revenue from other states, you know, people traveling in from other states, but I do think it would cannibalize some of the local revenue and hurt, you know, restaurants and that kind of thing that aren't located at the resort. So that's some of the reason I'm against it. Also, we had our Southern Legislative Conference in Biloxi, and I don't think we would have anything like Biloxi, I hope, but it's really sad to see people in the casino that you can just sort of look at and feel like they're gambling their next month's rent, you know, and they're just, I don't know, it just brings in a bad element, in my opinion. So that was not what you asked, but more than what you asked. But Atlanta is where it would be. So it's not going to help Lawrence County, in my opinion.
Would the proceeds of that go to fund education?
I think you would probably see it go toward a needs-based scholarship program, part of the proceeds. Last session they talked about, they first started out with that, I think, and Bubba and Matt, y'all jump in, but they just started dicing it to try to buy votes, like, well, let's do it for rural health care, let's do it for just whatever you floats your boat to get you to go along with it kind of deal. But I think it would be a you know, a needs-based scholarship program where hope is not needs-based, it's merit-based. So this would be a sort of a different angle on that. And I think it would cannibalize some of the Hope lottery money revenue. I don't know how you could argue that it wouldn't do that. Rural health care is a big problem. We'll be working on that, but it's a tough nut to crack, and there's no easy answers. If you have individual health insurance, not group, most of us have our benefits and our health insurance through our employer. I think 64% of the people in the state have their health insurance through their employer. But if you're a mom and pop operation and you're buying health insurance on the individual market, you know how terrible the rate increases have been and what a huge cost that is to your family. And I don't know, I wish really Congress needs to act on that. It's going to be, I don't think we've seen yet the impact of the Blue Cross pulling out of all the counties they pulled out of and the rate increases. I've talked to several families lately that are paying over $2,000 a month for their health insurance, and it's not good health insurance either. Blue Cross pulled out of every county in Georgia that had another option. So it left us with, I think they have in 84 counties, Blue Cross Blue Shield is the only option, and they are only offering a really two plans with a very narrow network. So it's a big problem. Anything else before I give her the mic? All right.
Portions of this program are brought to you in part by Fairview Park Hospital, a leader in healthcare for Dublin, Lawrence, and surrounding communities. Providing specialty services through facilities such as our Sleep Center, the Heart Center, and Women's Imaging Center.
When this last storm came through, I think it was Sandy, we were out for 7 or 8 days, and we were the only ones with power. When the power goes out, there's probably about a 6 or 8 second delay, and then we get a staged recovery. It takes less than a minute, but everything's on within a minute. The furnace is running, the lights are on, the TV's on, the washer, the dryer, the oven, everything. To me, this generator has paid for itself several times. If I lost power right now, these pipes could very easily freeze in probably a day or two, and that would cause significant damage. And maybe insurance would cover it once, but I really don't want to go through having my walls torn out and the pipes replaced. My family's going to be safe and secure in my house because of this generator. That gives you that feeling of security that, to me, is priceless.
Would you like the peace and security starting today? then call the City of Dublin Natural Gas. The City of Dublin Natural Gas, the smart choice.
I'm Jennifer Bryant with Oconee EMC, and with me today I have Marty Smith, our President and CEO, and Terry Howard, our Chief Operating Officer. Also, from our Georgia EMC Government Relations Department, we have Bill Verner, we have Jenna Saxon, and Elise Williams. So they came from Atlanta as well to be with us today. On behalf of Oconee EMC staff, board of directors, and our membership, we would like to thank you all for joining us today. We also want to thank Senator Walker, Representative Hatchett, and Representative Epps for just continuing to support the EMCs and all of our interests throughout the year. We very much appreciate your support. And this morning I have the opportunity to introduce Representative Matt Hatchett. Matt was born and raised in Dublin. He is an Eagle Scout from Troop 68 and was an honor graduate of Dublin High School. He graduated from Presbyterian College with a BS degree in applied mathematics with an economic emphasis. After returning home to Dublin, he started Hangers Cleaners Incorporated, a local dry cleaning establishment, and operated it until 2010. He and Kim purchased Plum Alley, a ladies' clothing store, in 1997, which he presently operates. He is a member of the Dublin Rotary Club and has served on the board of the Dublin Lawrence Chamber of Commerce and as the chairman of the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Lawrence County, as well as the Heart of Georgia United Way. He is presently a member of the Board of Communities and Schools in Lawrence County. Matt served as a Dublin City Councilman from 1999 to 2009 and served as the Mayor Pro Tem in 2007. He represented Dublin-Lawrence County as a member of the Leadership Georgia class of 2000. Matt serves on the advisory board of the Citizens Bank of Lawrence County, and he was elected to the 150th House District in November of 2010 and serves many different roles. He and his wife Kim have two beautiful daughters, Emily and Camille. Please help me in welcoming Representative Matt Hatchett.
Thank you. Glad you didn't read the whole thing. You had me worried there for a minute. Well, Larry, I got 10 pages of notes here and you covered everything. No, I'm just kidding. I would just like to start and say, and everybody always gives us grief about this, but it's true. You know, it's a pleasure to serve with the guys I serve with and ladies. And it's a great pleasure to serve with Larry and Bubba. We both think, well, we all think alike, not exactly alike, but we all have the concerns of this community and the communities we serve at heart. You know, Larry comes to me, I go to Larry, and we all go to each other and ask questions because we all hear different things and we want to know, put our minds together and do what's best for the community. Larry's, I don't know how he does what he does, and I definitely don't know how Bubba does what he does because he serves 7 counties. And he is always on the road. And yesterday he was in Atlanta, and they're always all over the place. So guys, thank you for what you do, and thanks for helping me do what I do. Larry touched on it, and this session is going to be one that I've never experienced. I don't know, Bubba, you may have experienced a little bit of a regime change, but it's going to be crazy, and I'm a fan of Forrest Gump and the movie, and life's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get, and I think that's going to be true this year when we get up there in January. I know one thing is that the governor, and Larry's closer to this than I am, but he's got all intentions of continuing his making Georgia great for business and continuing the momentum that we have and continue to do what he's done. I know we're going to continue to build the reserve fund, which is almost at $2.5 billion, and he has all intention of when he leaves office to keep it at $2.5 billion. Unfortunately, I think we're going to be able to do that. We've got a couple of bleeps in the budget that I know are coming that we are already planning on. One is a adjustment for the Teachers Retirement System Fund. It's a $420 to $450 million hit that we're taking to make that fund where it needs to be. That's planned on. It's going to happen. So if you hear any teachers that are retired worrying about that, we're going to take care of it. There's a $110 million Medicaid adjustment that we've got a plan for, and we're gonna fill that. Luckily, we have the money for the revenue coming in from taxes that we can do that. Larry talked about all the different study committees he's involved in and all the different study committees that we've got going on, and there's a lot of them that are happening during the off season right now. Some of our EMC people and other people that are in state government that are here can attest to it. We've been traveling all over the state. And one of the committees that I'm on is the Rural Development Council. And I think we've had 7 or 8 committee meetings all over the state already. And we're gonna be meeting 3 more times before session, and then we're meeting next year too. But we're coming with a lot of different things for rural Georgia. Many of you have probably sat in on the Georgia Chamber 2030 study that came out earlier in the summer or earlier in the spring. You know, it wasn't enlightening for rural Georgia. So we've been trying to come up with some different ideas and some different things we can do to help promote rural Georgia. And some of the things I think that you're going to see are just probably hopefully doing some different tax incentives to promote broadband in the rural parts of the states for the companies that actually do that, to hopefully get some equipment in some areas that we need it. There's some technology out there that's coming on board that hopefully will happen, and it's going to be a game changer. And the energy companies will be involved some way, because there's going to be using their power lines if it happens and comes to fruition. So that will be interesting to see and be neat to see if it happens. Larry touched on healthcare. We have had 8 hospitals close, and we've got 15 that are on that point of we're watching and worried about. What are we going to do? Just try to help them every way we can. Every year we help fund some federal qualified healthcare centers, get them open across the state to help rural areas with their health care, and take some of the indigent and non-pay health care out of the emergency rooms and hospitals. So I can see that continuing. Larry touched on APRNs and PAs, scope of practice. That's one of the biggest contested issues we get in every year, is scope of practice for all the different professions. And that's probably going to be something we deal with this session, because we deal with it all the time. So hopefully we can do some of that to increase access to all the rural parts of the state. Workforce development. In all our meetings, we've heard about the issues that employers are having with getting help. There are jobs out there, but they can't find the workers. The biggest problem is they can't pass the drug test. We all know there's an opiate problem, the mental health issue. We're going to be looking at whatever we can to try to curb some of that. The president has called it an emergency situation, so maybe there's going to be things coming federally that are going to help with that problem. But it is an issue, and hopefully we can get some control over the problem and get people in these jobs that are out there. One thing that the governor did last week was, we got the HOPE grant, which puts people in certain careers and trains them in certain careers free. And he's added 5 new career paths to the HOPE grant that are free. So that'll bring 17 of those. Another thing that we're hearing from employers is just training in soft skills, like, hey, you need to come to work, and you need to do this, you need to do that. So we're probably going to be looking at focusing on that a little more in your high school, and changing maybe some of the CTAE courses, and just not really replacing anything, or maybe change some of it, and focusing a little more on soft skills to get our students so they're ready to go to work. You hear that, we know that here with what we've seen with Valmere and Glass and their apprenticeship program, that companies are just want people that they can have and they can go to work, so they know how to go to work. One thing we are faced with just about every year is what's called CON, or Certificate of Need, with our hospitals. It comes up every year, and the issue's always, we can't open up that part of the law. Because there's always a fear that this is gonna get added to be amended, and it's gonna hurt the hospitals. Well, I have a feeling it may get open this year because there are a couple of hospitals that are, quote, micro hospitals that are already in existence, I believe, that technically aren't supposed to even be allowed to be operating. So we've got to do something to make them legal, I think, and they're in parts of the state where they're needed. It is an answer, I think, to part of our problem, so that's probably coming. I'm not going to guarantee that it's going to happen, but I foresee that happening. There's some tweaks to the CON law that really need to occur. There's just parts of it that are dated, and we need to change. One other issue that was discussed last session that I know is coming back is what's called surprise billing or balance billing. And you've all, I'm sure, once you've had a procedure done, usually happens at a hospital, all of a sudden 3 or 4 months down the road, you get a bill. You're like, what is this? Well, it's a problem all across the state. We had quite a few hearings about it, and the bill came to the floor a couple of times. Very contested. There's 4 professions that it really affects. Radiologists, ER doctors, anesthesiologists. There's one other one that I always forget, but they're the ones that are not always in the plan that the hospital's in or the group's in, and there are just some issues with it. And I tell them all, I said, the only problem I really have, if you're not in the plan or whatever, I said, I don't understand getting the bill 6 months after you've had the procedure. I said, I was in business. If I sent somebody a bill 6 months after they came to me, they would have laughed me out of the room. I couldn't have stayed in business. So that's the part I have an issue with. And I think the bill is going to outline that you've got to get a bill by this amount of time, and if you're not, you're not going to be able to do anything as far as collecting until after this amount of time. So there's some things that traditionally we don't get involved in this, but I think we will on this issue. So I hope we resolve something there. We've got a study committee that's looking at transit. In 2015, we passed HB 170 that has generated quite a bit of money for our transportation. But we are the largest state that does not dedicate funding for transit through our motor vehicle tax. MARTA does not get money from the state of Georgia. We did put some money in a bond money last year that actually went out to some of the transit, agencies around the state, but there's no tax money generated by the motor fuel tax that goes to MARTA or to transit across the state. It's constitutionally determined. I don't know that you'll see anything trying to change that, but MARTA is funded through Fulton County and DeKalb County, is that correct? And then the funds that are generated from that revenue. I would love to be able to get on a train right down here and go to Atlanta and not have to worry about getting in any traffic. I know that there's study already in place. This House, the state has funded a study to look at, I guess, light rail options and other options. Some of that's going to be ready by the time the session is here. I think, we're ready to see some changes on how you get through Atlanta, around Atlanta. I'd love, maybe all of us will be able to just fly over Atlanta. Of course, the harbor expansion, the deepening of the harbor is 35% through. We had asked for $100 million from the federal government this year. The president put in $50 million. Who knows where it's going to be? A little birdie told me that the state is going to have to put up a little more money this year. A lot of money to me, but it's a little bit more money to the state. Larry mentioned tax reform. think the federal government is gonna go through with some sort of tax reform which will affect us, and we'll see where it ends up at the state level. The one issue that's out there that nobody really likes to talk about, but I'm just gonna bring it up, is all the Confederate monument issues, because we know it's coming. But I'll just say that I think one of the people that has summed it up the best is Condoleezza Rice. You can't sanitize history. And I agree with that. I think there'll probably be some sort of commission formed to look at all the monuments, and we'll see what happens. But you cannot sanitize history, and it's history. So with that, I'll kind of close and see if there's any questions. They're saving all the questions for you, Bubba. Thank you all. I enjoyed serving you and look forward to continuing.
We're here today at Bank of Dudley to discuss business loans. So many businesses and industries trust the Bank of Dudley for a variety of financing alternatives to suit your specific needs, from short-term loans to help with cash flow, loans to purchase equipment or facilities. At Bank of Dudley, we have commercial mortgage loans, capital improvement loans for construction or renovation. We can help with your business vehicle loans or for a small business line of credit. In other words, Bank of Dudley has your business covered. No matter what it is, you can trust the lenders at the Bank of Dudley with 5 convenient locations: East Dublin, downtown Dublin, Veterans Boulevard, Dudley, and Jeffersonville. The Bank of Dudley, member FDIC, and an equal housing lender.
Choose the convenience of Neighbors Express and get friendly, courteous service every time you visit any of our convenient locations. Fill up with pay at the pump and take advantage of our bigger and better selection of beverages and tobacco products. And buy 12 packs of Pepsi products, 2 for $6.99. Enjoy the popular crushed ice with your favorite fountain drink. Also enjoy a fresh, hot breakfast. Stop by for lunch or dinner. It's always fresh, always convenient at Neighbors Express. Now located at I-16 and 441 and in Cedar Grove, providing farm fuel for all our customers. Count on the convenience of Neighbors Express.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Louis Sheffield, and I'm the general manager at Little Oak Mulgee EMC, and I got Mr. J.T. Fennell with me this morning. He's our staking engineer and a first-class lineman. I get the privilege this morning of introducing Representative James Bubber Epps. He's a Republican representative for House District 144, which is comprised of Bleckley, Twiggs, and Wilkinson counties, as well as parts of Bibb, Houston, Jones, and Lawrence counties. He began his tenure in the legislature in 2009 and has lived most of his life in Twiggs County, where he served on the Board of Commissioners for 10 years and the last 4 as chairman. A native of Middle Georgia, Mr. Bubber was born in Bibb County and graduated Twiggs County High School. Mr. Bubber received an associate's degree from Bruton Parker College, a Bachelor of Science in Political Science, and a Master's in Education from Mercer University. He completed postgraduate work in educational administration from the University of Georgia. How about them dogs? He spent the early years of his adult life in education and then joined his family's paving business, Epps Brothers Construction Company, Incorporated, where he retired in 2007. His son took over as the 3rd generation owner. Representative Epps serves many different roles in the House of Representatives. Mr. Bubber is married to Catherine, and they have 3 children, 8 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren. Please join me in welcoming Representative Epps.
Well, Matt, you and Larry covered everything, so I can just say thank you for the breakfast, and it's been a joy to be with you. But they truly did. Great job. Larry Walker speaks from the heart, and I've always admired that about him. And of course, Matt I refer to as Matthew just because it sounds, I don't know, just sounds respectful to me. I just saw it on his wall one day in the Capitol, and I said, Matt, why don't we call you Matthew? That's biblical, you know. That's precious. But and he does. Believe me, he does. But look, we would be remiss if we just I'm gonna talk to you briefly, and it will be just about my perspective on the legislative process. But I just want to recognize Congressman Rowland, Dr. Rowland. You know, I never come to Dublin, Lawrence County that I don't see him. You know, his years of service, not only to our state, but to this nation, has given us a framework that Matt and Larry and myself are able to work in. A strong governmental perspective that has allowed to exist over the times and the decades, and the flexibility of it, and they adhere to the Constitution, and I think have passed that charge on to us. But Dr. Rowland, it's always a pleasure to be with you. You're a true patriot for this country, and a son of this state that we're always proud of. And I mean that. Didn't I see our director of our veterans facility here? Yeah. You know, when Matt said I was in Atlanta yesterday, you know, the governor signed the proclamation for Veterans Day, and it's always a joy, and thank you for what you do for the veterans of this state, and the service that you render. In our chamber, I have the pleasure to serve on the Appropriations Subcommittee of Human Resources, and that is the subcommittee that veterans come under as far as our state veteran services. And you know, that is one agency that doesn't ask for anything but just what they need. There's no, I guess you'd say, padding of the budget. Commissioner Roby is a realist, and when he asks for something, he has a true need for it. But I'm proud of what our state does for our veterans, and the fact that our governor, as a veteran, is sensitive to that issue, and he makes a strong and sets a strong example for us to acknowledge and to support and help veterans. And I'm proud that we have this facility in Dublin and Lawrence County that's known worldwide and throughout the Veteran Services Administration to provide for those that were there in the time of need for this nation and this state. And I hope we never forget that. But you know, a legislative process and life in the legislature is no different from life in Lawrence County. Really, it's, I think it depends on you. The attitude that you carry into that chamber every morning is going to play a large role in determining what kind of day you have. If you go in there with a negative outlook, then you're going to probably have a negative results from the day. You know, Matt and I are just two of 180 people, with 180 perspectives, opinions, attitudes that we have to be respectful for and of, and I think that's what you put us there to do. It's not to be just kind of one-sided or single-focused on anything. Representing 7 counties, my district is diverse as you can get. It goes from poverty to a good economic standing, great schools, poor performing schools, counties with excellent health care system, counties with no health care system. You keep a lot of balls in there trying to juggle the needs of such a diverse district and help one without impacting in a negative way the others. But when you ask for the job, then I think you need to be committed to doing the best you can. And you can't do that by sitting in the office or staying at home. You have to be out and about and amongst people and be genuine when you hear them and respond to it. I pride myself on trying to answer every phone call I get. Now, true enough, when the hurricanes come through, AT&T was not kind to me. They kept my phones off for 2 weeks, and so when I finally got the phones back on, I had messages there that I tried to respond. Well, some of it was too late to respond to, but I think it's a simple responsibility on our part is to be accessible and to be available to our constituents and to give them the opportunity and give them an ear just to simply listen to. Not to say that we can bring remediation to their issues all the time, but we can certainly lend them an ear. And I think we know as we sit in those seats that oftentimes when a vote's taken, and I think every time it probably needs to be from the head, you really need to know where you are. You need to have an idea of what the outfall is going to be, not just tomorrow, but as best as you can determine for further down the road. But it's hard not to vote with the heart a lot of times. And I think that's justifiable. There's a lot of unintended consequences that come forth from legislative initiatives that we pass there that we didn't have a clue would come to light. But I think the best thing, and I tell this to a lot of freshmen, the best thing that helps you in the legislative chamber or in any elected office are your life experiences, what you grew up with, you know, how you were raised. You've always heard if you raise a child in church, he'll stay in church. I believe that. You know, you form a way of life in your early years that I think directs and guides you in your latter years. And that's to me is my biggest asset is throughout my life I've had a variety of experiences and have been in situations that if you just listen to your inner thoughts, really gives you an insight into maybe not where you should be, but where you want to be on issues. So, you know, it's not, you're not doing wrong when you vote with your heart sometimes, just because you have a clear and understanding of where you are and what your purpose for being there is.
Your Chevy team that can't be beat is
Dublin Chevrolet!
Get up to 20% off MSRP on Malibu.
Dublin Chevrolet! The only dealer you will ever need!
They know a winning team when they see one.
Hi, I'm Anna Grace with Myers Equipment and Supply, your dealer for the complete line of Can-Am side-by-sides and ATV products. For hunting, farming, or riding the trails, Can-Am has the models you need. If you want all-out performance, choose the Can-Am Maverick line of side-by-side. With models up to 172 horsepower, 20 inches of ground clearance, 24 inches of suspension travel, power steering, and four-wheel drive, there is nowhere you can't go. And nowhere you can't go quickly. Coming soon, the Maverick Trail, with features like its larger sibling. The Maverick Trail will go places you never thought possible. Come into Myers Equipment today and see the full line of Can-Am ATVs and side-by-sides. Can-Am, the ride says it all.
Let me just briefly tell you what I'll be involved with in this session. Matt, you and Larry did a great job. You hit those 10 points, Matt. I'll tell you, Matt's our caucus chair, does a great job. He has to deal with 120 of the Republican caucus members, about 118. We don't have the supermajority the Senate does. But he has to listen, he has to react, he has to, you know, make decisions that maybe aren't necessarily popular with everyone, but it's better for the overall status of our chamber and the purpose that our caucuses have there. But I chair motor vehicles. And the result of that, we've had study committees last year and carried on over into this year. We actually had legislation dropped on alternative fuels, and everyone in this room knows that alternative fuel is going to be an oncoming issue within our state. But as we look at alternative fuels, electric cars, and transportation changes, how can you have alternative fuel vehicles if you don't have an infrastructure to allow statewide services for these? So with the pending Volkswagen settlement and our governor's plan of action in that light, we have proposed legislation that's going to look at establishing an infrastructure for alternative fuel vehicles throughout this state. And I think we have a committee this year looking at autonomous driving, distracted driving. So as our state develops and improves our infrastructure system, we're going to see movement in these areas that are kind of arterial from those. That's an issue that I think we'll see some legislative movement, particularly within the Motor Vehicles Committee on. Our propane industry is a large part of the alternative fuels. I know it's a big part here in Lawrence County. Propane dealers want a commodity commission status this year. They kind of waited last year to see if maybe it could just be done under rules and regulations with the Department of Agriculture, but I think the movement this year is going to be looking at a commodity aspect of it. And then something I'm working with Chairman Brooks Coleman, who chairs our Education Committee in the House, is something that's going to be maybe received in some parts of this state and again not in others. But any of you in education are aware of the concept of an e-lost. 9 of our school systems in the state of Georgia have that. They're the only the only school district that have them. It'll take some constitutional work to get there, but this is just to provide those school systems that voluntarily want to do this an opportunity to vote on an e-loss for maintenance and operation purposes for their school systems. It'll have a 5-year duration, and it'll be strictly, as I said, up to the voters of those districts to determine whether or not the systems go into it. We've gotten a lot of requests from the rural races to give them some help, particularly in maintenance and operation aspect, which they don't do underneath SPLOST. But oddly enough, some of the urban districts, some of the larger school systems in this state are expressing an interest in this. So in early December, we'll have a meeting with superintendents and REISs just to see if the probability of carrying an e-lost initiative forward for the school districts that have a desire to do so want to participate in that. So that'll probably keep my time occupied, and I agree with the Senator and Chairman Hatchett. I think it'll be a timid session. I don't know. Election year, we don't seem to want to put our toes in quicksand there, so it'll be, I don't look for, other than what's been mentioned, for a great exploration into anything other than that. But with that being said, I'll be glad to entertain any questions. It's always come to know that the speaking positions are arranged on age. So, but thank you for letting excuse me.
What's your thoughts on the upcoming broadband legislation that they've got coming out?
And have had many inquiries and, just a plea for help. I think Matt and those through their rural council has deal with that. We've had a special study committee on broadband. I think if these telecommunications folks are going to take these funds that are available to them to expand broadband into these situations, I know in particular Wilson County has an issue. Yeah, I live probably 1,000 feet outside of Bibb County in the Twigs, and I'm on AT&T, and we are having a constant problem maintaining service. And I talked with the AT&T folks, with those that can address the issue, and it's it's old equipment. They said the market's not there for them to upgrade, and it's the same song you get every time. But when you tell them, I don't want to see an AT&T bill come across my desk till this broadband dealt with, but at least they'll give us that's not a perspective to operate on, because individuals don't have a position to threaten from. But I know in our little business, you used to make the trips to Atlanta once a week to attend bid openings. Now everything's done over the internet, and your quotes are made, and if you lose service, you can potentially lose a job or revenue. So it's we've as a state become dependent upon it. I think as a state we're going to have to ensure that we maintain the quality of service that's required of it. Thank you again. It's always a pleasure to come and be here, and I truly enjoy spending the morning with you. Heath?
I want to say thank you again to Representative Epps, Representative Hatchett, and Senator Walker. Thank you, gentlemen, for taking your time to be with us today. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to adjourn the meeting by reminding you that it's a great day for business in Dublin, Lawrence County.